everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the Royal One podcast, the podcast that empowers you to discover your purpose, embrace your identity, and engage faith tenaciously. I'm your host, Dr. Lysandra Barnes, life coach, Bible teacher, author, and founder of Royal One Enterprise. I am so excited to be with you, and I hope you are all having a fantastic day. So with October being recognized as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I wanted to dedicate this last episode to discussing domestic abuse. So in this episode, we're going to continue the conversation that we started last week with my best friend and clinical therapist, Tiyanna Payne. We will be discussing how to support someone involved in an abusive relationship, and I'll also continue to share my story of how I overcame being in an abusive relationship in college. So, are you ready to go on this journey of empowerment? Then let's go. Well, before we jump into our conversation with Tia, I want to let you guys know that my book, Rejected to Accept It, is available on all platforms. Rejected to Accept It is an empowering guide to wholeheartedness. This book explores the personal triumphs and struggles I faced while embarking on my journey of self-discovery after experiencing fatherlessness, domestic violence, and a series of failed and unhealthy relationships. More than a memoir, Rejected to Accept It empowers the reader to overcome the crippling effects of rejection and domestic violence. You learn how to love yourself and others the way God intended, and you can learn how to create healthy patterns for future relationships. This book provides hope and inspiration. Maybe you have personal experiences that left you feeling heartbroken or questioning your worth. Rejected to Accept It will encourage you to allow Jesus to repair the shattered pieces of your heart with the glue of his love. Rejected to Accept It is available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com in both paperback and ebook formats. Go out and get you a copy. Rejected to Accept It is definitely life-changing. I'm telling you. I'd share my heart and walk through my journey. In this conversation, I'll be sharing bits and pieces of what happened in that relationship. You'll get a more in-depth discussion of that in my book. So I want you guys to get ready. Let's go into the second half of the show.
I think I've been a therapist all my life, whether I wanted to be or not. But I've always said, pick you, because when all is said and done, you are left with you. You got you and you got God, but on this earthly journey, you pick you and figuring out what that you is. You know, I will admit, I remember reading a book and reading, you're like, I remember you said, wrote what I said. And it's funny because in my head, I go, I didn't even think she was listening. I was just, being me, but I think that's what I'm hearing is that in life and in your journey and in your story, you have to be the main character. You have to be the leading actor in your life. So you got to pick you. You have to pick you. I've said to people before, I've walked away from friendships. Sandra can tell you, I'm a person that you could be gone and dead to me real quick. If I'm ride or die, you mess me over. And that's all she wrote, because I gotta pick me. Yeah, I gotta wake up every morning and look at myself in the mirror, and I need to like who I see on the other side.
So what happens if I'm there for my friend? I keep listening. I'm getting sick of it. She's not changing. I gave her the numbers. She's not leaving. I'm tired of listening to this. What do I do now? Do I stop listening? Can I create healthy boundaries to say I can pick me? I look. Until you're ready to leave, you're not going to leave, and don't call me with this. Like, so what do you do for that person that's like, I done said this 50 times and now listening?
I think one of the things is that you got to have boundaries within your friendship, but don't close your friend off. Don't close them off, because that's actually the goal. That's the goal of the abuser. That is the goal of that person, because again, there's that shame. So I got to hide. So I say, don't do that. I couldn't imagine doing that. I have clients who have, gone through abuse and who are in abusive situations. And I know they're in an abusive situation. And as much as a therapist, I want to say, girl, leave, please leave. I mean, I've had guys that were abused where I'm like, please leave. You have to support, but you also have to make sure that you are not taking on their emotional baggage. That's a lot of times what happened is, I'm tired of hearing the same old story. And so I think what you have to say is that, and it's funny to me now to think about, like I said this 10 years ago, almost a little over 10 years ago, to you, like, know your worth and know that when you're ready to leave, we can go. But they're not going to tell you the story every time. Mm-mm. Because especially if they see you shut down.
Yeah.
Did you go in detail with me afterwards? You didn't know. I mean, you didn't go into detail with me in the beginning. But you knew I knew. Yeah. And you knew I loved you, and you knew I supported you. That's what matters. And that's hard. It's a patience that's in there, right? There's a patience that's in there that says, like, but I would say we have plenty of friends who'd have been in plenty of relationships where you, like, if she don't leave him alone, or, or even if he don't leave her alone, that, that's crazy, but that's still your friend.
Yeah.
That's still your friend. And so there is still that point of, I cannot personally imagine walking away from a friend with that, because I feel like they need your strength. Mm-hmm. I felt like, if I go back to that day, I feel like I do know. I need to stop saying I don't know. I know where that strength came from, but I feel like you needed to see me and see that strength. You needed to see me rip him a new one, and see that. I mean, you knew that was in there because you didn't see that in me. So, as much as I was exit strategy with a purpose. I used to sometimes say, listen, you the church one.
Look.
Let me cuss him out. I just be like, the Lord know my heart. But I'm going to cuss this person out. You just sit right there. But
and pray on the side.
Yeah, just make sure you pray me down afterwards. Like, oops.
Look.
But I think you needed to see that, because I think because you were hiding it, you didn't have the strength.
No. Because he said, here's the thing. This is the thing, is that things that happen that people don't talk about. He was in the church. Mm-hmm. So that was another layer of it. And I remember one day, and I talk about this all in my book, I said, I don't need you. Like, I can leave you. Because it was moments where I would get a little confident. And I would be like, man, I don't need you. And he was like, yes, you do. I said, as long as I got King Jesus, I don't need nobody else. This fool did a full, like, belly to belly or something, like WWE move, and pinned me down and was like, where's your God at now? And I was like, now, hold on. Something got to give, because I thought you was in the church. This must be the devil, because if you saying where's your God at now, that must mean you full of the devil. So I'm like, you know what? I didn't get the strength of Samson to fight him off. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted, that, but I didn't get it. And it was like, okay, I need to see somebody do something. He's the bully, and he keep taking my lunch money. I don't have the strength to fight him. I'm losing every battle. It's easier for me to just concede and do what he says than it is to keep trying to fight, because I'm going to keep losing. And then to see you walk with so much gusto and strength and confidence, like this dude backed down to her. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. So if it worked for her, then I can get back to that place that it can work for me. It just took some time to then start unraveling it in my mind, where I'm still trying to fix him, because I feel like we kept going on a cycle, the abuse cycle. I remember working at Arms, and we were talking about that, the abuse cycle. And it's like 1 minute they're good. The next minute, they're getting ready to create the situation, and then they're preparing themselves for that situation. And then bam, they come home and be having it out. And it's like, oh, then they're so remorseful. And then you go back on this cycle where you think, you're bringing me flowers, like, I'm so sorry, but it just kept happening. So when you feel like you're getting more strength is when he's quiet and nothing's happening. But it was like, after a while, you get sick and tired of going through the same thing, and you get sick and tired of being told you are worthless. You get sick and tired of being taken advantage of. You get sick and tired of being abused, all these kind of ways. And it's like, you know what? I was better off by myself. Mm-hmm. If this is what it's worth, I don't want this anymore. And you can say no. Now you got to have your exit strategy.
Yeah.
I think that's important that people don't talk about. Is like, you need to know the degree of crazy that you're dealing with.
Yes.
If he's not backing down, then you need to have an exit strategy where you're saying, okay, I'm just going to grab a bag of clothes and I'm heading over to so-and-so's, and I'm not answering my phone. I'm just leaving. Or you got to have the police called. You have to find a strategy. I think there's a ton of resources out there that is available for you to create a strategy before it's time to go, for you to leave that relationship so that you can be safe. Because there's a lot of times when you do leave and you do go back. I didn't go back, but there are women that do go back. And it's like, so when somebody gets in that space, you still have to know that it's a relationship. and they love them. And that's why they stay. So let's look at that for real quick. Why does someone stay in an abusive relationship and they know that Tony is no good? They know he's putting their hands on them. They know they're worth more than this. Why do they stay?
Because they feel like they can change them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is change. A lot of it is, like I said earlier, is that you are attracted to your similar trauma. And you talk about, childhood traumas and life traumas, and you meet somebody and, oh my God, they can relate to me because they went through the same situation. Just because y'all go through the same situation don't mean that's your person. But sometimes it feels that way because they can relate to you. Mm-hmm. But your trauma and their trauma might not actually be the same, and how they deal with their trauma. Mm-hmm. That's a part of it. Is sometimes we are attracted to like traumas. That's sometimes where you see the people who are always butting heads and always arguing and always fighting and things like that. And we're just alike and stuff like that. And they probably are just alike because they both have untreated traumas. It's just one. Typically, unfortunately, it's the man. Mm-hmm. Men, when you look at depression and sadness, when you really, really look at how it's shown. And women, it's usually cutting, some form of self-harm. Mm-hmm. And they go inward and they shut down and you have the isolation and things like that. With men, when they show depression, more likely than not, it is they get angry, right? They become, aggressive. Mm-hmm. You see that. Or they have to put it somewhere else. I worked with kids and I would know, I had a particular kid, I always knew when he was depressed because he would usually say, my chest hurts. Right? Mm-hmm. He would always say, my chest hurts so bad. And y'all don't understand. And trying to explain his pain. And you take him to all these doctor's appointments and have the medic check him out. But really what he was saying was, my heart hurts. But I can't say, my heart hurts because that's not manly. But if I'm saying I'm having chest pains, people going to care for me and they're going to love me and they're going to give. And so that's part of that, like that trauma and showing that trauma coming out where you're getting this guy is like, I got power over you and I got control and I got all of this. That's that trauma coming out. And it's not me saying making them a victim by any means. It means they haven't treated their trauma and they need to. Somebody else don't need that. They should have checked their baggage at the door with that. But I think that's sometimes why people don't leave. When you got kids in it, that adds a whole nother layer to it. But a lot of it is that I don't feel like I am enough. And I can fix this person. I can fix them. The biggest, as women, we are fixers. Yeah. We wear the Olivia Pope syndrome like no end. I tell people that all the time. I always say, I am not Olivia Pope. But I had to even get to that myself of you can't fix everybody, but we want to. And because you feel like 4 out of 7 days out of the week, he's nice. Maybe even 6 out of 7 days, he's nice. He don't put his hands on me. He might yell at me. But I think one of the things we haven't talked about in here beyond physical is that emotional abuse. Yes.
That is a killer. And let me pull it up. I have it right here. I'm going to read exactly what it is. Again, I go through all types of abuse in episode 5 of the podcast, but here we go. I'm going to read it out for you. It says emotional abuse is undermining an individual's sense of self-worth or self-esteem. It may include, but it's not limited to, constant criticism, diminishing one's abilities, name calling, and damaging one's relationship with his or her children. And then I'll read psychological abuse. It says causing fear by intimidation, threatening physical harm to self, partner, children, or partner's family, destruction of pets, property, enforcing isolation from family, friends, school, and or work.
And I think that's one you have to watch for because they may not have put their hands on you in 5-6 days, but what are they feeding into you, right? Because you even said you left. You left. So you were away from the physical abuse, but the emotional abuse that he fed into you lived on for 8 more years.
Long after he was gone.
Right? And so I think that's part of it. So, and that's why I say we're having that support system, if you have one, of feeding into the person, feeding fully into that person that I'm here, you got this, it's a miracle. He never knew my address.
Never.
He never knew my address.
And all the people he sent to follow me, he never came to your place.
Yep. But I never feared he was going to come to my house. Now, I'm a single woman. I think at that point I was living on a first floor apartment that you usually got into. You know, it never happened. And I never feared for it to happen. Even, you know, even you being at my house, me saying like, I don't think you were fully over it.
Yeah.
I think it was just, I felt like we were protected.
Yeah. The Royal One podcast is sponsored by Royal One Enterprise. Royal One Enterprise is an empowerment company that utilizes life coaching, Bible teaching, speaking, and consulting to equip women with the confidence to embrace the royal woman within. For more information, visit my website at www.royal1enterprise.com. All right, guys, let's jump back into the conversation with me and Tia. I think that's the thing is that it was that once I stood up for myself, because when you stood up to him, he backed down. And when I stood up for myself, he backed down. It's about power and control. Mm-hmm. Abuse is about power and control. I always say it is a learned behavior that you either learn to give or you learn to receive. But abuse just does not happen. It is a learned behavior. Either I'm going to learn how to give it or I'm going to learn how to receive it. And you have the power to step out of that situation. I think from the beginning, it didn't start with a big situation. It started with a small incident. It was a pull. It was disrespect that you thought was cute at the beginning, right? Oh, he getting rah-rah, disrespectful with everybody else. But I never thought he would get disrespectful with me, but I never checked it. Yeah. When it goes unchecked and you didn't say, I know my worth. Nope, I'm sorry. This relationship is over. And I let my guard down to say, you could treat me any kind of way you want to. And that's the thing. And so it's like people stay for so many different reasons. I want to share one more because I want you to get my book to find out the rest. They lost their identity. I think that's a really important one. And I say they don't know who they are outside of their partner. They've forsaken everything that has become unique to them, and they do whatever their abuser wants. They wear whatever the abuser tells them to wear. They alienate from their family and friends. They don't have a mind of their own. They lost the power of their voice. For the sake of peace, they determined that they will make their partner happy by accommodating to all their requests. Their self-esteem and self-worth is depleted. They're unable to think logically or clearly for themselves. So it's like you're looking at this from a healthy perspective. You're looking from the outside in, saying, why are you still here? You need to leave him. He's no good. But because my identity is so consumed with him, that if I leave him, who am I? I don't know. So I'd rather stay with him because he's telling me what I like, what I don't like, what to wear, what I don't wear. I don't got to think when I'm with him because he already told me that I'm dumb and stupid and nobody wants me, but I'm the one with the degree and he ain't got nothing. You know what I'm saying? But I had to remind myself of who I am. And that's the thing is that when a woman starts to build her self-esteem and self-worth, then she'll start leaving. The excuses stop. The excuses stop when you find your worth. And it's no more, well, maybe. And that's another thing. Like, you can't do the work for them.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You can't.
When a person they're ready when they're ready. Mm-hmm. It's why I said what I said to you. I think it's why your mom said what she said to you. It was, we are here, but we're not going to force you to leave. If sometimes, and then Sandra said, I wouldn't do therapy sometimes with her. Like she would say, what you think about this relationship? And I would say, I think it's cool if that's what you like. Sometimes I would say that. Mm-hmm. That was sometimes her code for I ain't feeling this relationship. And partially because one thing I've learned in life is that if your friend is in a relationship with somebody and you don't like them and you tell them and say they break up, but then they get back together, what you said is still there. Yep. And now they're going to look at you sideways with this person. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the situation. I wasn't comfortable with it. But I think what it was is that you didn't need me to say, leave. Because I knew I had to leave. Yeah. I knew what I was supposed to do. I needed you not to look at me any differently. Mm-hmm. Because there was other people who found out and they looked at me differently. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you never changed your perception of me. She lost her way, but I know who she is. Mm-hmm. Like, I know who she is. I have enough history with her to know who she is, to say that this is just a mistake. This is just a falling moment. I can always come back to you and I can trust you. You see me for who I was and not what I am in this moment. And it was like, okay, I can rock with you. Because those other people who looked at me differently, I don't rock with them anymore. Well, and you know what it is, though? For me, it's a temporary situation. It wasn't permanent. I knew with everything I had, this ain't forever. This is not where she gonna live. This is just a blimp. This was temporary for you. I feel like any, relationship or situation I may get into, I know that you're going to be right there. But I think that was what it is. In my mind, I was like, this is not permanent. And I for sure wasn't going to allow it to be trying to be permanent. Like if you had came to me and said, we about to get married, I would be like, no, you're not. Shut down. That would have been a no. That ain't no. Let that go. That was a nice thought. But, I knew it was temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was a lesson you had to learn in that. And I think part of that was, I think that was the defining moment of you learning your value. I think as we grow, we're going to continue, but I think you didn't truly know your value, truly know your worth. Find in this man. It was defined in men. I think at that moment, I think it was like, I love Jesus, but this man going to define me more than Jesus is going to define me.
Yep.
That's not, that wasn't you.
Mm-mm. If anybody knows, my business name is Royal One. My Instagram handle is Miss Royalty. I have always said that. I followed after my sister and her friends who said they were royalty. So it was just this weird thing to be like, I am Miss Royalty. I don't take no mess. I'm a daughter of a king. I do all these things, but I'm not acting like it. Like princesses don't hang with paupers. Like I'm a daughter of a king and I'm not seeing that. That's why I go so hard about being royal, being a royal woman, empowering women the royal way, like really helping you embrace and identify your worth. Because it's like when you know who you are, my standards change. And it's not me just saying it, but I honestly believe it. So it's like, yeah, I may dance over here for a second, but at the end of the day, I will always choose me. And so I can even think about moving back from Portland. It was a moment of, Sandra, what are you going to do? Remember when I called you like, T, I think I'm coming home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I got all these things. I met someone and I think this could be the one. I was so excited about this relationship. I ran as fast as I could. And the funny thing is, I was running right back into a situation that I ran from years ago. All the signs were there. Thank the Lord that I prayed about it. And I said, Lord, am I supposed to stay here? Because I was ready to marry this man. Because here's the funny thing is that you find your worth. I have been in Portland for 12 years and I found my worth. I was good. I wrote a book. I'm living my best life. But the problem was I felt invisible in Portland. I felt invisible because I did not date well in Portland. I would date when I would go home. I would come back to Michigan, have dates lined up. But in Portland, it just was not a good look for me. When one person would say, oh, let's go on a date. I was so excited. I jump in with everything I have. And I know what I'm supposed to do, but I forget all of this. Like I forgot all of the lessons that I learned and jump back in. Cause I love love, I love relationships. I want to just be married. I want to have kids, like all of that. So this person actually checked all of my boxes and I was ready. I ran. Like he wanted it. He wanted to move fast. I didn't want to move fast, but he did. So I was like, okay, well, he really checking for your girl. And then I prayed about it. Two things happened. One, I had a dream and I knew it was a sign. And the second thing, the Lord was like, nope, you made the right choice. You need to go home. If he's serious about you, he'll come get you, period. I moved back home. Things didn't work. We kept holding on and trying to get back together and kind of still talking. Okay, let's just be friends. But the conversation kept turning back to this relationship. And I started noticing that it was little digs here. It was little digs there. Mm-hmm. It was a put down here. It was a put down there. Like you never really supported me. And I'm like, wait a second. I know this. I've met you before. You know what? I'm done with this. Like I had to remember who I was and say, I am a daughter of a king. I am not your wife. I do not have to put up with this foolishness. Goodbye. Mm-hmm. I will not be treated like this. I know what I'm worth. And I will not allow you to sit here and begin the process of abuse on me. Mm-hmm. Berating me, belittling me, that's abusive language. No, you never have to put your hands on me, but you're hitting me with your words. Mm-hmm. Because I know what it took for me to get free of those last words. I'm not doing it this time. And I said, Lord, I thank you that I chose me. I had to choose me. And I was so excited that every chance I got, I chose myself every time. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm done with this. Goodbye, block, delete, I'm done. But I sat back and said, Sandra, you chose you from the beginning. When you had a choice to say for a man that you barely knew, you picked up your stuff and you left. The whole time you said, if you want me, come get me. I know what I'm worth. The whole time your narrative stayed the same. No matter, every time we went up and down trying to play games, you stayed consistent to who you were. And I'm so proud of myself because now I saw it and I knew it wouldn't work. And I was like, Lord, you know what's best for me, because if this was you, you told me. And I was like, thank you, Lord. So I'm just grateful that no matter what situation comes up, I know how to choose me, and it didn't take me forever to figure it out. Like, I chose me from the beginning, and it was like, and people didn't think I was going to leave. Nobody thought I was really going to leave because I met a man. And I was like, T, I got to come home. What'd you say?
What I remember first saying to you is, so what did the Lord say? One, I remember at first you said, well, I ain't prayed about it yet. And I said, well, talk to me after you tell me what the Lord say. Because, you especially, I know if you say the Lord told me to do this, I'm like, well, that's it. That's the end of our conversation. I think the other thing was you talked a lot about him. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying to you, so where are you in this relationship? I love the growth of our friendship. I think there are moments where I probably couldn't have said that 10 years ago.
Oh, nah.
I had to say it another way, put a little extra on it. Didn't have to be as, I couldn't be as raw as that one. Right. And I think that you were like, those were my two things that I remember going away from it. And I remember myself, and I don't even know if I said this to you, I remember praying, let her make the best decision for her. Not for him, not for anybody else, but for her. Now, selfishly, I wanted my friend home.
Sure did.
I wanted my friend home. I needed my friend home. I was going through a lot at that point in my life. And I was like, well, look, Lord, bring my friend home. But you know what I'm supposed to happen. But,
right.
But I also said, I remember saying this to you. No matter what you decide, I will support you. Mm-hmm. I want you here. But if you're not here, I completely understand.
And guess what? I'm at the crib. I see life so differently. Even coming back home, this is the thing. First podcast is about advice to my younger self, right? I came back to have a conversation with the girl who left. Mm-hmm. I was leaving a situation and I felt like the girl who left because I met her again. I was leaving a relationship that I thought I wanted. And I was leaving something that I really, really wanted, but I had to choose me. The same girl left to go to Oregon was that same girl. Growth, but it was still the same. It was still a relationship issue, right? That very first podcast, I had to talk to her and I had to talk to me to say, Sandra, you're good. Yeah. You are all right. You are fine. You made the right choice. You are loved. You are wanted. I had to rehearse over myself the truths of who I am and the things that I learned from my journey of being away for so long. So now let's apply it to this situation. Let's apply the things that you've learned, because you can't forget, because it's easy to get in a situation. And this is why you keep going in the cycle and picking the same thing, picking the same guy, doing the same thing, is because you didn't learn the lesson. And so now I got in a situation where I didn't make all the right choices. I own it. I didn't make all the right choices. But when it came down to, you need the next 10 questions to pass the test, I knew the answer. I knew what to do. I am now proud of myself. I learned what it means to choose me in a relationship. We've been talking for a long time. I hope you guys enjoyed it, but I want to leave with this note. What would you say to that woman who was saying, I listened to the last podcast, I listened to this podcast, and I'm now realizing that I'm in an abusive relationship. Help me. What would you say to her?
I would say, you are worth it. You are loved. You are resilient. We a lot of times say strong with a person. And so because we say strong, they feel like it's not okay to be weak. So I will say you're resilient, because resiliency comes from weakness. I would say know your resources and start working on yourself mentally and emotionally. So when you leave, because you will leave, that you are the woman that you want to be and not the woman that he has created, and always choose you.
That sums it up. You are loved, because a lot of times we feel like I'm unloved because the relationship didn't work, or I'm unlovable, or, I can't be loved. But the reality is that you do love very hard, and you love to try and fix somebody. You love so much that you allowed them in your space. You allowed them to be broken. You allowed them to, you just kept trying and trying and trying. So it's not the fact that you don't know how to love. It's the fact that you don't know your worth. And there's somebody that's going to treat you well. There will be someone that will honor you and respect you. And you won't have to feel like you are ridiculous and dumb and stupid and negative. They want to honor you as a woman. Even as a man, if you're a man out here being abused, you're worth more than that. Abuse is never okay. It is never okay. I don't care if they say, well, we just fight or we just banter back and forth. It's not okay. If you're not feeling comfortable in that position, it's not okay. You are worth more than this relationship. Your life is worth more than that, because this is what's going to continue. If you don't love you, you got to love you more than you love that relationship. You got to love you more than you love that man. I don't care what happened in your past. I don't care what happened with your father or your mother growing up. None of that matters. There is someone that loves you. His name is Jesus Christ. He can forgive you of all your sins. You can forgive yourself and you can begin life again. It is not over for you. The best is yet to come, and you can start all over today. I feel like saying amen.
Amen.
I'm going to say this last thing. If you are someone that you know is involved in an abusive relationship, there is help available. Please call 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-7233, or go to their website at www.thehotline.org for more information. Well, everyone, this is the end of the show. I want to thank you for joining me for this episode. I look forward to providing you with more encouraging content that empowers you to discover your purpose, embrace your identity, and engage faith tenaciously. If you have any questions that you would like answered on the show about faith, purpose, relationships, or anything in general, email me at info@lasandrabarnes.com to ask your question. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and share the podcast. You can follow me on social media at Miss Royalty 143 on Instagram and Twitter, and Dr. Lysandra Barnes on Facebook. Remember, you can purchase a copy of my book, Rejected to Accept It, online. Click on the link in the show notes. And if you want me to coach you, go ahead and click the link in the show notes. And you have been listening to the Royal One podcast, where we empower women the royal way. And we want to say thank you again to my bestie, Tiyanna Payne. I want to call her Dr. Tiyanna Payne.
I'm on my way.
Look, Tiyanna Payne, for being our very first guest on the show. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Can we follow you online? Are you on social media?
I am on social media. It is True Image Associates. And so all social media platforms will have that name.
All right, you guys, you have a great and blessed night. You've been listening to the Royal One podcast, where I empower women the royal way. This is Dr. Barnes signing off.